Leanne Rhymes here on 95.7. It's 10 minutes after the hour of 6 o'clock. It is a Wednesday morning, the 13th day of October, 2021. Mark Saiz here, live at 2207 7th Street in Las Vegas, New Mexico, where it's a little bit freezing. 31 degrees is the current temperature, and looking for a high today of around 63. But we were expecting a hard freeze warning overnight, and we'll just see how the flowers and the plants and anything, how they survived overnight. We are in we're in a portion of Scripture. We are in the 15th chapter of the book of Numbers, okay? Just to let you know, that's where we're at this morning. Also, to let everyone know out there, the prayer line is open for the next hour and 50 minutes at 505-310-9658. So that number is good today till 8 o'clock, tomorrow till 8 o'clock, and Friday till 8 o'clock in the morning. And we thank God for those people who man the prayer line for us. Thank you very much. You know, we're in a series of chapters to where Moses is just getting challenged by the people. Okay, we're not quite there yet. We're going to get into another challenge against Moses in the 16th chapter. But here in the 14th chapter, 15th chapter, remember the 14th chapter yesterday? The people rebel. Okay, the people lift up their voices. They start crying. They said, "Oh, we should have died in the wilderness." The problem, and their whole complaint is that you weren't able to bring us in, Moses. Moses brought them up to the point they weren't willing to move on. They weren't willing to move over the border from Kadesh into the Canaan land. But no, it's never their fault. It always has to be somebody's fault. Welcome to the human race. And then we got into chapter 15 after the Lord had said this. The Lord had said is that your children are the ones that are going to inhabit the land. All of you 20 and over that have been complaining against the Lord, which is everybody except Joshua and Caleb, he says, you're not going to make it. You're going to be out in the wilderness for 40 years. So you got 38 more years to, make yourself comfortable, and let's just go cruise and put it on cruise control because we're going to keep going around the mountain for another 38 years. And he says, but your children are going to enter into the land, and they will take possession. They will be my army to go into the promised land. Then we got into the 15th chapter yesterday. In the 15th chapter, he starts talking about when you get into the land. And if you go with me to the scriptures that's on screen on our YouTube channel and also on our Facebook page, you'll find out there that it says, speak to the children of Israel and say to them when you have come into the land. Who's he talking to? Well, if you follow my line of reasoning, he's not talking to the people that are 20 years and over. He's talking to the youngsters. He's talking to the ones 19 and below. When you come into the land, and we just throw Joshua and Caleb into that mix because they were faithful to believe God and to trust him by faith that his word was good enough, because the complaint to the people was, oh, there's giants in the land. The 10 spies said, we're not able. And Caleb gets up and gets the attention. The people says, come on, let's go. We can do it. But the people were unwilling, and they didn't. So you have to start throwing rocks at somebody. And we'll get into throwing rocks at people here in a little while. But here's what the Lord tells Moses in the beginning of the chapter, which we covered part of this yesterday. Say to them, he's talking to the young group. Now he's talking to the youth group. He's talking to the, what would be the college ministry. Okay, the freshmen and the sophomores, the 18 and the 19 years old. He says, when you have come into the land, I mean, imagine you're 19, 18, 19 years old, and your brother or your sister is 22, 24 years old. And you've heard what has been said. You heard the judgment of God in the 14th chapter. You have to realize that God is the judge of all the earth, and all of his judgments are perfect. But Moses right now, well, actually God, Yahweh, is speaking to the youngsters. When you have come into the land that you are to inhabit, which I am giving to you, and it's almost like the attention of Moses and the direction of his speech turns from one group to another group. And now they didn't give us much attention, and now all the attention is coming to us. And you make an offering by fire to the Lord. So he says, this is what you're going to do when you get in. Don't forget when you get in that these sacrifices, and some of them were very young to really understand the sacrifices, but what Moses is doing is Moses is repeating these sacrifices to them so that they can understand that when they come into the land, and by then some of them are going to be almost 50 some years old, 58, 59. No, yeah, let's see. If they're 19 now, the oldest would be 19, and you add 38 years to that, that would be about 57 or 67. Anyway, my math is off this morning. I'm thinking away other things. I'm thinking of how I can get to the 20th verse where we left off yesterday. So he's speaking to these people. He's telling them, this is what you're going to, don't forget, we're going to keep the commandments. We're going to keep these rituals. We're going to keep these statutes. We're going to keep all of these that I have spoken to your parents. You're going to do it. Verse 17 says, and I'm getting closer to where we left off yesterday. Again, the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, speak to the children of Israel. And I know many times when he says to the children of Israel, it's to the whole congregation. But watch this. And say to them, when you come into the land of which I bring you. Okay, now I understand there's a generational God, and we really don't go on by ourselves, but we take the memory of our former and those to come and all that good stuff to go along with it. But I mean, we're addressing the youngsters now. When you come into the land which I bring you, then it will be when you eat of the bread of the land that you shall offer up a heave offering to the Lord. This is what, I heard Robert Morris say this yesterday. I was listening to a Robert Morris teaching off of YouTube. Very interesting one. Very, just perfect for where I am at. Thank you, Pastor Robert Morris from Gateway Church in, South Lake, Texas. And he said, when God speaks, God creates. Every time that God says something, he is creating. From the beginning, God, and this is what he said in his sermon, when God starts to speak in Genesis 1:1, it is creation. Let there be, and there was. From chaos into order. God still speaks, and when God still speaks, speak to the children of Israel. He gives Moses his word. Moses speaks his word. And God is creating, God is building something in the life of the children of Israel. The word is still doing the same thing. That word is still building into the life of those who have an ear to hear and eyes to see. Just like Jesus spoke to his disciples, but unto you it has been given. So the word of the Lord goes out, and he's speaking into the inner man, into the spirit man of the young people of Israel, and giving them faith, because they're going to be dragging around or be drug around, depends on what side you're on, for 38 years. But there's hope. There is hope when you come into the land. prophetic word. Then it will be when you eat of the bread of the land. Oh, and there's going to be harvest when you get into that land. You young people, there's going to be harvest when you get there. You shall offer up a heave offering to the Lord. You shall offer up a cake of the first of your ground meal as a heave offering of the threshing floor. So shall you offer it up. And we realize that God always gets the first. The first belongs to the Lord. The top, God gets off the top, not off the bottom of your offering. The first of your ground meal. So you come in and you get the harvest and you separate the wheat from the chaff off the threshing floor and you take it to the mill and you begin to grind it. The first belongs to God. And you offer it up as a heave offering because I'm going to bring you in and I'm going to be there and you're going to have harvest when you get there. You shall offer up a cake of the first of your ground meal as a heave offering to the threshing floor. So shall you offer it up of the first of your ground meal. You shall give to the Lord a heave offering throughout your generations. So I see, you can say, well, okay, we've already seen this. We talked about the heave offerings with 2 or 3 places already that we've talked about it. Yeah, but we're addressing the youngsters now. And we're saying, hey, you guys. And now you say, well, I don't know about me. I guess I'm over the hill. Wait, you're young at heart, are you not? Let's go, all you youngsters. Let's go with us. Now we get into verse 22. If you sin unintentionally. Okay, now, why are we bringing up the unintentional sins? One reason that I can give you that we're bringing up unintentional sins is because we've talked about the stranger. What do we do with the stranger? When the stranger comes, I'm going to put that on just for a little while so I can go up a little bit. He says, when the stranger comes into the land and he wants to have Passover and he wants to join in, the rule for the stranger is the same as for the native born. So let's say that the stranger, someone comes in from the outside, just like the rabble had a choice. See, the mixed multitude had a choice to come into full covenant if they wanted to in the wilderness. They didn't want to, but they had the opportunity to do it. So we've come out of a chapter that have told us if these people, the outsider comes in, it's the same rules, the same commandments, the same protocol, the same preparation for the holy days. Everything is the same for them as it is for you. But maybe he doesn't know all the inners and the outers. Maybe he doesn't know all the details of the law. Maybe he's just, if you sin unintentionally and do not observe all these commandments which the Lord has spoken to Moses, all that the Lord has commanded you by the hand of Moses from the day the Lord gave commandments and onward throughout your generations, then it will be, if it is unintentional, without the knowledge of the congregation, that the whole congregation shall offer one young bull as a burnt offering, as a sweet aroma to the Lord Yahweh, with its grain offering, its drink offering, according to the ordinance of one kid of the goats as a sin offering. So, are there things that we don't do? There's a lot of difference between the intentional sin, and we'll be getting into that here in a little while. If you can hang with us through KLYN, YouTube, Facebook, we'll be getting into the intentional sin. But there are a lot of unintentional sin. I mean, hey, sorry, wasn't thinking, didn't. And he says, let's cover it. Why? Because I want to keep you in relationship with me. And there's unintentional sins. Without the knowledge of the congregation, there was nobody that, well, hey, everybody's going to have something, and it's time to open up the closet. Instead of keeping the closet closed, let's open up the closet. And the way we do that is the whole congregation shall offer one young bull as a burnt offering, as a sweet aroma to Yahweh with its grain offering and its drink, and that's going to cover, and that's going to keep you within the realm of the holy boundary that I have for you as my people, and keep you in a working covenant. Everybody's on covenant, but not everybody is in a working covenant. And we're working out our salvation with fear and trembling. If it's unintentionally committed, he says, do this. You youngsters, it's going to happen. It's going to happen when you get into the land. I want you to be prepared for that. So the priest shall make atonement for the whole congregation. The priest was not going to be Aaron when they got into the land. It might have been Aaron's sons. Could have been Aaron's grandsons. But we still have a priest, as we have a great high priest, our Lord and Savior Christ Jesus, who can understand our unintentional sins. Isn't that kind of what the book of Hebrews is talking about? He understands our weaknesses. That's what he says. So the priest shall make atonement for the whole congregation of the children of Israel. It shall be forgiven them, for it was unintentional. And they shall bring their offering, it doesn't say sin offering, an offering made by fire to the Lord, and their sin offering before the Lord for their unintended sin. So, hey, everybody's going to have unintentional every once in a while, and there's a way of taking care of it within the Mosaic covenant. Let's get into a song, and then we'll get into our updated weather. An hour and a half at 310-9658. Sunny today, high around 63. Windy with a west-southwest wind 7 to 20. We could have gusts here in San Miguel County up to 28 miles per hour. Thursday, sunny, high around 63. West-northwest wind 7 to 23. Gusts up to 32. And on Friday, sunny, cooling off to 57 degrees on Friday with north-northwest wind at 11 miles per hour. And the weather reporting station at the airport here in Las Vegas is showing a wind chill of 23 degrees with that 7-mile-an-hour wind we have blowing out of the west. I'm not showing wind right here at 2207 7th Street, so we're still sitting at 31 degrees, but it's a little cold this morning. Anyway, want to thank the people that are with us on our Facebook page and on our YouTube channel. Andrea, good morning. Tommy, how you guys doing? Jody and Joyce. Jennifer saying that the electricity in Springer was out all night long. I hope she's got wood to keep that place warm over there, because I could imagine what the temperature is over there in Springer. So let's go back to our scripture and let's continue in this verse by verse, okay? So the priest shall make atonement for the whole congregation, and it shall be forgiven. It shall be. Hello, you want to know what the good news? It shall be forgiven them. You didn't do it intentional. It wasn't something that you know. And there's a fine line there. I know that there is, but let's not push the line too much. Verse 26 says, it shall be forgiven the whole congregation of the children of Israel. Come on, take it off. There you go. Thank you. It shall be forgiven the whole congregation of the children of Israel and the stranger who dwells among them, because all the people did it unintentionally. It wasn't something, let me tell you what. There's going to be people. You say, how is this going to work? And what's the big deal? Okay. There's going to be a time, many generations later, when the people are going to be taken into exile. And the southern kingdom is going to be in Babylon for 70 years. And when they come back into the land after, I think it was Cyrus, who is the king of Babylon, is going to let them come back. And, Ezra was there, Zerubbabel was there, Nehemiah was there. All of these, famous names that we find in the Bible were there. Some of these people were going to be confused about what the rules were, what the law was, what the commandments were, what the statutes were. Even about, so this is going to be perfect for those people that are going to come back from Babylon. Even though there was prophets and priests to teach them, they're going to be scattered throughout all of the empire of Babylon. So when they come back, there's going to be a lot of unintentional sin that's going on. Well, nobody told us. And not only that, the people that stayed behind, the remnant that stayed behind in Judah and in all the nation of Israel, because not only was the southern kingdom, but the northern kingdom was even going to go into exile earlier. They're not going to have a lot of the priests and a lot of the teaching to go along with. There was not going to be a temple. The temple was going to be raised. All that stuff was going to happen. So, they're good. We did our best, but we weren't sure. Well, okay, it was unintentional. Bring their offering. An offering made by fire to the Lord, and their sin offering before the Lord for their unintended sin. It shall be forgiven the whole congregation of the children of Israel. See, sometimes we look at it just through, right? Well, how could they not know? Moses had just spoken. Well, this is going to be covering hundreds and hundreds of years. It shall be forgiven the whole congregation of the children of Israel and the stranger who dwells among them, because all the people did it unintentionally. If a person sins unintentionally, then she'll bring a female goat in its first year as a sin offering. So the priest shall make atonement for the person who sins unintentionally, when he sins unintentionally before the Lord, to make atonement for him, and it shall be forgiven him. I mean, you might as well have a just in case clause, and that's what this is all about, in my view. You shall have one law for him who sins unintentionally, for him who is native born among the children of Israel, and for the stranger who dwells among them. The main idea behind this verse is one law for the native born and for the stranger. How does that make you feel? Well, it makes, for the outsider, you say, hey, well, we're not Jews, we're not Hebrews. We've come in through a new covenant. We're the wild olive branch that's been grafted into the natural tree. That's kind of one law for everybody. One law, one God, one gospel, one hope, one love, one baptism, one faith. You shall have one law. And see, this is what the Judaizers were trying to do in the time of the apostles, is they were trying to bring the people under the old law, not realizing that they were supposed to come in out of that covenant into the new covenant, the finished covenant, the complete covenant, not a flawed one. You shall have one law for him who sins unintentionally, but the person who does anything presumptuously. Did we not talk about presumption yesterday? They presumed to go into the land. They presumed that God was going to be with them, even though he had told them that he wouldn't. The end of the 14th chapter yesterday, when they did not go into the land. And then the next day they said, yeah, let's go. We're ready now. He says, no, man. You're presuming that God's going to go with you. He's not going to go with you. So there's a difference. Here's the difference. What's the opposite of the unintentional is the sin of presumption. The great sin of presumption. And I just said this yesterday just because it's come up here at Cornerstone Church within the last month or so. I had a sermon on the sin of presumption. I'm not sure how Mark titled it, but you'll find it within the last, I'm guessing, 3-4 weeks off of our recorded sermons. But the person who does anything presumptuously, whether he is native born or a stranger, that one brings reproach on the Lord, and he shall be cut off from among his people. This guy, he does it anyway. Unintentional is different from the presumptuous. Because he has despised, the presumptuous person has despised the presumptuous action is despising the word of the Lord and has broken his commandment. That person shall completely be cut off. His guilt shall be upon him. You say, darn, could you give me an example of that? What's the example of that? Well, I'm glad you asked that question. Verse 32. There used to be a guy on Saturday television. I'd say, I'm glad you asked that question. That was many, many years ago. Many years ago. When we used to sit down on Saturdays as kids and watch television. Now, while the children of Israel were in the wilderness, they found a man gathering sticks on the Sabbath day. You want an example of presumptuous sin? Here it is. This is not the unintentional. While the children of Israel were in the wilderness, they found a man gathering sticks on the Sabbath day. And those who found him gathering sticks brought him to Moses and Aaron and to all the congregation. Now, it doesn't tell us this, but this dude was probably gathering sticks so he could sell it to the other people. Just maybe, okay? And nonetheless, we know that he was gathering sticks. He was getting wood together. This wasn't just somebody who was just kind of kicking rocks down the road and just going out for a walk. This guy knew better. They found him gathering sticks and brought him to Moses and Aaron and to all the congregation. They put him under guard because he had not been explained what should be done to him. So they put him under guard. They bring him. They put him under guard. And Moses takes it to the Lord. Moses doesn't lean upon his own understanding. Moses trusts in the Lord with all of his heart. So they bring this guy in. The presumptuous person. They put him under guard, verse 34, because it had not been explained what should be done to him. Then the Lord Yahweh said to Moses, the man must surely be put to death. All the congregation shall stone him with stones outside the camp. So as the Lord Yahweh commanded Moses, all the congregation brought him outside the camp and stoned him with stones, and he died. And I'm guessing is that the next Sabbath, nobody even left their house. You made sure that on Friday you got all the sticks that you needed on Friday to honor God, to keep this holiness theme going on. But there's your example of the sin of presumption. Again, the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, speak to the children of Israel and tell them to make tassels on the corners of their garments throughout their generations, and to put a blue thread on the tassels of the corners. So he says, okay, on their garments, he says, I would like for them to have these little tassels. Just like the one that the woman with a issue of blood reached out and touched. So tell them to make tassels and to put a blue thread on the tassels of the corners. Not sure exactly how that all worked out. I don't know the blue thread. I don't know the tassels, but I know that there was a purpose. And you shall have the tassel that you may look upon it and remember the commandments of the Lord. So, maybe because of our Sabbath breaker, he would have looked at the tassel and he would have said, I think I better not. Maybe I better stay home today. Maybe I shouldn't have been so lazy Thursday and Friday. Maybe I should have taken care of it. Speak to the children of Israel. Tell them to make tassels on the corners of their garments throughout their generations. Put a blue thread on the tassels of the corners. You shall have the tassel that you may look upon it and remember the commandments of the Lord to do them. So everywhere you went, people had their garments and they had the tassels on the bottom, and you would think, oh yeah, oh yes, the commandments of God. Our God is amongst us. Our God is with us. Our God is holy, and he's calling us to holiness with him. And all we had to do is, and I'm sure there's something much more deeper than that, but with everything that's going on from the beginning of this chapter even to the previous one, and we tying it in, and then we're getting into the youth, okay, and God speaking vision unto them at the beginning of this chapter. Then we're talking about sin, and then we're talking about when you enter into the land, and then you're talking about the unintentional sin. You're talking about the presumptuous sin, and then we see the presumptuous man. Now we see, hey, let's make this as a reminder for us all. Let's use this to keep us thinking about our God. This is what the Bible says in the book of Isaiah. I had this bookmarked at one time. I don't know if it's still there. I'm kind of looking for it. But Isaiah, the book of Isaiah, and I think it's chapter 26 at the beginning of the chapter, says, he whose mind is stayed on him, he will keep in perfect peace. See, I love the opportunity that we have to come to you through 95.7 FM, okay? 12, 15 miles in every direction outside of the center of Las Vegas. I love the opportunity on these ungodly channels like YouTube and Facebook still come in with the word. But our one of our main goals, one of our main scriptures for being here is to keep our mind stayed on him. The tassels was going to help in that. The tassels were going to keep your mind stayed on him. Let's see if I can find it for you, because I have somebody out there that's saying, where is that verse? And let's see if I can find it. I think the word is stayed. So we're going to see Isaiah 26:3 says, you will keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on you because he trusts in you. I'm hoping that not just for the 95.7 people, but for the multi-platform social media people that we have out there, that those that, and you know, we have Joe and Flo, we have Jody and Joyce, we have Tommy and Andrea, we have Jennifer, we have Chana, we have others that are with us regularly on these different platforms that are out there that are making comments, others that are there that aren't making comments, but they're watching it anyway. You can't tell me that this isn't an opportunity to keep your mind stayed on him. And while you're getting ready to go to work, you might not be watching it, but you might have it over there in Pueblo Street in Espanola. You didn't think I knew that, did you? Or Rio Rancho or Springer, or that you're keeping your mind. This is helping you keep your mind stayed on him and get that in you. Let that creative word of God work in you and keep you for the rest of the day. Verse 3, chapter 26, the book of Isaiah. Remember, we're talking about the tassels from the 15th chapter of the book of Numbers. You will keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on you because he trusts in you. So my connection between those two verses, Numbers 15 and Isaiah 26, is that the tassels were there to keep your mind stayed on him so that he could keep you in perfect peace. And by faith, we have a peace that God gives us, that in the middle of the storm, in the middle of the trials and the tribulations of life, in the middle of the challenges that are being handed to us every day, challenges and more of them coming our way, we say, my God, listen, keep your mind stayed on him. And let me help you. Just stay tuned and catch what you can here in the early morning program, or listen to it later whenever. Maybe you're driving to work. You have the tassel that you may look upon and remember the commandments of the Lord to do them, that you may not follow the harlotry which your own heart and your own eyes are inclined. So if we don't have that reminder, if we don't have that day, give us this day our daily bread. If we're not eating that daily manna, that fresh bread that God has for us, there's that lean that we have. It's kind of like that car that's out of alignment that keeps on pulling toward the other lane. And if you got to be fighting, let's keep in the straight and narrow. Let's keep our mind stayed on Him. And the tassels were there to remind these people. And I believe that is what the woman with an issue of blood reached out when she touched out the hem of his garment. She was reaching out to the commandment. She was reaching out to the very promises of God. And it was for them so that they would not lean upon their own understanding. They would not go to the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. That they would not follow, according to verse 39, the harlotry to which your own heart and your own eyes are inclined. My God. There is so much there that I could add to it, but I think the Holy Spirit's do that you may remember and do all my commandments and be holy for your God. Let that washing of the water of the word come over you. Remember the commandments. Let it purify. Let it cleanse you so that you can be holy, so that you can have that salt. We talked about it on Sunday's sermon, the salt versus the leaven. I am Yahweh your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Yahweh your God. And just another opportunity for him to say, I want to have fellowship with you. Now we get into another example, Numbers chapter 16, verse 1. Now Korah, the son of Izhar, the son of Kohath, the son of Levi, with Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, and On, the son of Peleth, the sons of Reuben, took men, and they rose up before Moses with some of the children of Israel. Here, and we'll get into it. We'll go. But let me just tell you what's going on, and it's pretty plain. I'm not just trying to change your mind about what's going on. The authority that God has given Moses is being challenged again. We've seen a pattern of this already. This is not the first time. If you go back probably 3, 4, maybe even 5 chapters, you're going to find that the authority of Moses has been challenged over and over again. No sooner. You can't tell me that the authority of Moses was not challenged when the 10 spies brought in their bad report. See, these people are still really let's set the story. The context. The context is the people are in Kadesh. They had the opportunity to go into the land. Okay, you remember that? Just a couple of chapters ago, they had the opportunity to go into the land, but they believed the report of the 10 spies. And then after God had pronounced judgment upon them, then with the sin of presumption, they presumed, let's go in. We'll go in tomorrow. We'll go into, that door had closed, and Moses says, don't do it. You're going to get defeated if you go. And that is part of the context that this is going on. So Korah and Dathan and Abiram and On, and you have to realize Korah was a Levite. He was of the Kohathites. The rest of these guys were of the tribe of Reuben. They rose up before Moses with some of the children of Israel, 250 leaders of the congregation, representatives of the congregation, men of renown. They gathered together against Moses and Aaron and said to them, "You take too much upon yourselves, for all the congregation is holy, every one of them, and the Lord Yahweh is among them. Why then do you exalt yourselves above the assembly of the Lord?" Now, people are going to argue about, well, are all God's people holy? Well, they have the opportunity to be holy. Hello? Anybody out there this morning? But let me tell you what. If everybody's in charge, nobody's in charge. They gathered together against Moses, and Aaron said to them, "You take too much upon yourselves." Let me tell you what happens. When you begin to challenge the delegated authority of God upon the leadership, and I know there's bad leadership out over there, and I know we have a hard time finding out who the delegated leader is and versus the one that isn't, and those that are pretenders versus those that are the real deal. I understand that. But when you come against the delegated leadership of God, you're coming up against God yourself. So these men, including Korah, and he's the main dude, he's the Levite, and he gets 250 of other people from different tribes. We know that there's from the tribe of Reuben, there's some of them. But there's 250, and these were men of renown. They were not just some you guys that are living out on the fringe someplace. Men of representatives of the congregation, men of renown, they gathered together against Moses, and Aaron said to them, "You take too much upon yourselves, for all the congregation is holy. Every one of them, for the Lord is among them. Why then do you exalt yourself above the assembly of the Lord? Who made you the boss?" Hey, you ever heard that before? Who appointed you as Mr. Big Shot? God. God was the one who told me. I didn't even ask for the job. I was trying to tell God, give it to somebody else, and I can't even speak. And God says, I'll even send Aaron to be your mouthpiece, and I don't feel. Hey, it is what it is. And once again, let me tell you, if everybody is in charge, nobody. Well, good morning. You are listening to KLYNLP. It is a Wednesday morning, the 13th day of October. Also, good morning to our YouTube channel and our Facebook people that are out there live with us, and those who are going to be listening to this program later. How's it going? 30 degrees is our current temperature. Gone down just a little bit. We have a 2-mile-an-hour breeze, making it feel like 28 out there, and barometric pressure is still 29.68 inches. We are in the 16th chapter. There it is. Okay, we are in the 16th chapter of the book of Numbers. Now, you say, well, okay, that's good. Well, does this have anything to do with the previous chapters that we've been talking about? I'm glad you asked that question. I got to find that guy on YouTube. I got to find that. I don't remember what his name was. I wouldn't know. I don't even know if I knew what his name was, but I think he was called like the Answer Man or something like that. And somebody asked a question, and the first thing, I'm glad you asked that question. Bet you he's on YouTube. Now, what does this have to do? Here is the sin of presumption. Let me explain something to us this morning. The sin of presumption is the premeditated sin. When the man went out on the Sabbath, he premeditated it. It was a sin of presumption, but there is always the element of premeditation when it comes down to presumption. There's the unintentional. The unintentional sin does not have the premeditated factor in the mix. But the sin of presumption has premeditation. And we saw a little example at the end of the 15th chapter of the guy who goes out on the Sabbath to work. Direct violation. Now, the sons of Korah, they take it up another, I'm talking about another level, they take it up to the top of the skyscraper. I mean, they're way up there. Korah, who is a Levite, and that gives them a certain amount of authority amongst the people, okay? The Levites. Oh, yeah, these are the sons of Levi. These are those that have been separated away from God to teach us and to help the priests. And yeah, Korah says, hey, dude. And he starts spreading his little yeast, his little leaven. He starts throwing his little leaven out there. This is the way leaven works. And he gets 250 leaders to come along with him and to challenge the authority. And you know what? It's real easy to say, well, who does Moses think he is? Well, the Bible says that Moses was the most humble man in all the earth. Moses had the qualities that God was looking for, and God appointed him. God was the one who called him at the burning bush. Moses is not a self-appointed leader. There are a lot of self-appointed leaders that are out there. Moses is not one of them. And Korah is the leaven that comes into the congregation. And just for your information, we talked about leaven and we talked about salt on Sunday sermon. And I think, Joe and Flo and Tommy and Andrea and Jody and I'm sure Jennifer, because she was here with us. She drove all the way in from Springer the night before. They probably listened to Sunday sermon. They know exactly how this fits in, and it's not even a stretch. It fits in right good. The intentional sin, the presumptuous sin, the premeditated sin. The yeast that is spread around. They rose up before Moses. See, here's what the book of 1 Corinthians talks about, is the yeast, the leaven that was spreading in the congregation of Corinth when a man took his father's wife to be his little girlfriend. Wasn't his mom. It was his dad. It was his stepmom. And he was having his little tryst with his mother-in-law. Yeah. Would that be his mother-in-law? I think so. Anyway. They gathered together, verse 3, against Moses and Aaron and said to them, you take too much upon yourselves. For all the congregation is holy, every one of them, and the Lord is among them. Why do you exalt yourself above the assembly of the Lord? Was the man who was violating the Sabbath, was he holy? Was the people who wouldn't believe God to enter into the congregation that dealt with almost everybody in the whole couple of million tribal sons of Abraham that were there at Kadesh Barnea, and they would not enter in because they did not trust God? Were they holy? All the congregation is holy. Every one of them. And Yahweh is among them. Well, it's the question is not, is the Lord among them? The real question is are they among God? Are they with God? I know sometimes we kind of sit back and we say, what did he just say? The question is the Lord with us? Are we with the Lord? Are we in a lordship relationship with him? Are we praying, thy will be done, not mine? Korah was doing his own thing. Korah's looking for position. Watch out with a person that's looking for position. Why do you then exalt yourself above the assembly of the Lord? You're making yourself, Moses was not making himself greater than the people. He was making himself lesser than the people. He was the one that when God says move out of the way, Moses fell down on his face and cried out for the people. At least twice we've seen him do that already. Korah doesn't understand that. He doesn't see it. He's blinded to that. Very, very, very important, the rebellion of Korah. Very important. Once again, you want a case study on the pastoral? You want a case study on congregational ministry? Here it is. That's why a lot of people don't even go to church anymore. That's why people sometimes on Sunday, they don't assemble with others anymore. Or they're looking even for small groups because the big group wasn't working for them. And sometimes I can't blame them. But not all the time. Get over it. Get healed. So when Moses heard it, he fell on his face. There he goes again. Oh yeah, you exalt yourself. He's on his face, man. Not only physically, but in his heart. He's humbling himself before God and before the people. When Moses heard it, he fell on his face. And he spoke to Korah and all his company, saying, tomorrow morning the Lord will show who is his and who is holy, and will cause him to come near to him. The one that whom he chooses he will cause to come near to him. Moses falls on his face, and God gives him an immediate message. Probably a little vision right there. He says, boom, okay, I see what God wants to do. We can deal with this. Let's take care of it. Maybe I would imagine in the heart of Moses, he said, well, maybe I have taken too much upon myself. Maybe I haven't, exercised my authority properly. But let's let God judge it. Let God judge it. God, how do you want to do this? I could see him down on his face. Says, you got to give me something quick, Lord. You got to give me something like right now. Boom, gets an idea. Says, okay. Gets up and he says, okay, guys, tomorrow morning, Yahweh will show who is his and who is holy. I had to look at that last phrase to make sure that I was saying, will show who is his. God is going to show who is his, and not that they weren't part of the congregation, Korah and On and all these other guys. It wasn't whether the question wasn't whether they were of the congregation or not. They were part of the congregation. Even the outsiders, even the rabble could have become part of the congregation. I mean, talking about the real covenant people of the Lord. Tomorrow morning, the Lord will show who is his. And I could put a parenthetical statement there, delegated authority, because all authority comes from the Lord and he delegates. And I don't believe that God gives full authority to any one man. He doesn't give all his authority. He gives his delegated authority. Some apostles, some prophets, some evangelists, some pastors, some teachers. Tomorrow morning the Lord will show who is his and who is holy. He will cause him to come near to him. That one whom he chooses, he will cause to come near to him. Do this. Take censers, Korah, and all your company. Put fire in them. Put incense in them before Yahweh tomorrow. And it shall be that the man whom the Lord chooses is the Holy One. You take too much upon yourselves, you sons of Levi. You're telling me that I'm taking too much? I think you're the one that's taking too much. But we're going to let God judge. And this is the way we're going to do it. Everybody, you 250, and Aaron and I are going to get our censers. And you know what a censer is? Especially us that grew up in the Catholic Church, remember that well, I don't think it was gold, but it's gold-colored, brassy type of an item to where they put when I was an altar boy, we used to get the charcoal and light the charcoal, a little round disc, and let it get nice and red and hot and put it in there, and then the priest would get the incense and put the incense on it, and that beautiful smell would come out of it. That stuff was, ooh. Ugh. Anyway, he says, okay, here's what we're going to do. Everybody take a censer and put fire in them and put incense in them before the Lord tomorrow. Then Moses said to Korah, hear now, you sons of Levi, is it a small thing to you that the God of Israel has separated you from the congregation of Israel to bring you near to himself, to do the work of the tabernacle of the Lord, and to stand before the congregation to serve them, that he has brought you near to himself, you and all your brethren, the sons of Levi with you? And are you seeking the priesthood also? Moses is telling Korah, hey, dude, you're a Levite, man. God has called you, separated you away from the other 11 tribes for a purpose. You are the ones who God has called instead of taking from one the firstborn man from every family. God has called you and separated you, and you are to work in the tabernacle and to assist the priest and to assist the people and teach. Isn't that enough? Verse 10 says, he has brought you near to himself. You and all your brethren, the sons of Levi with you, are you seeking the priesthood also? Now notice in verse 8, go up to verse 8 with me. He says, hear now, you sons of Levi. I have a question. Where were the rest of the Levites? How come they weren't taking care of Korah's business before it got even to Moses? Where was the leadership? I mean, Korah was probably, well-known Levites. But you can tell me there were other Levites that were just as well or maybe even better known or maybe had even had more authority. Why didn't they step in? Hear now, you sons of Levi. And maybe most of the Levites were sitting there saying, we'll let Korah do our dirty work and then we'll take over. Yeah. Rule by committee is not rule at all. It's chaos is what it is. That he's brought you near to himself, all your brethren, sons of Levi. Are you seeking the priesthood also? Therefore, you and all your company are gathered together against Yahweh. And what is Aaron that you complain against him? He says, okay, tomorrow, come with your incense, put fire in it, put the incense in it, and we'll all meet down by the riverside. All you, therefore you and all your company are gathered together against Yahweh. I'm warning you, Korah. I'm warning you, you're rebelling against God. Not against me, against God. What's Aaron? Aaron's just another guy. But Aaron's a guy with a call from God. You already have your call from God. A man that hasn't found his ministry yet, that doesn't know his calling, is always looking for somebody else's calling. Is it a small thing that you have brought us up out of the land? So Moses, wait, verse 12, excuse me. And Moses sent a call to Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, and they said, we will not come. See, these guys, if you go to the first verse, were part of the rebellion. But they didn't show up to the meeting. They didn't show up when God was when Moses had called them together and says, "Okay, get your censers and come together." And they wait. Where's Dathan and Abiram? I mean, weren't they kind of the leaders of this insurrection that was going on? We don't call it insurrection yet, but we find out that's what it is. But where's Dathan and Abiram? Moses said, somebody go get Dathan and Abiram. We got to be sure we're all in. They said, we're not going to come. We're not going to go. We don't even believe in your authority to begin with any, Moses. We're having our own little meeting over here. We will not come up Is it a small thing that you have brought us up out of the land flowing with milk and honey to kill us in the wilderness? That you should keep acting like a prince over us? Moses brought them to the land. It was them. Where were they when Caleb and Joshua were saying, we can go in? Where was Dathan? Where's Abiram? Where was Korah? Where was all these people? They were with the congregation saying, oh my God, we can't do it. There's giants in the land. Is it a small thing that you have brought us up out of the land flowing with milk and honey? You should have let us go. No, God said it was presumption, man. I couldn't let you go. Is it a small thing you brought us up out of the land flowing with milk and honey to kill us in the wilderness, that you should keep acting like a prince over us? Who do you think you are anyway, Moses? Oh, yeah, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of dynamics that are going on over here. Moreover, you have not brought us into the land into a land flowing with milk and honey, nor given us inheritance of fields and vineyards. He says, you haven't given us nothing, Moses. Oh, well. Wait. Somebody forgot that they didn't take possession of it by faith. Somebody forgot that God had given it to them. And God had taken them up to the threshold. Somebody forgot how quick we forget when we want to, when it's convenient for us. Oh, yeah, one day Moses is the man. The second day he's the dog. Kick the dog. Is it a small thing that you brought us out of the land? Moreover, you have not brought us into a land flowing with milk and honey, nor given us an inheritance with fields and vineyards. Will you put out the eyes of these men? What are you going to do? Take their eyes out? What are you going to do? Just poke their eyes out? We're not going to go. We will not come up. We're not going to your meeting. We don't even believe that you have the authority to call a meeting. Then Moses was very angry and said to Yahweh, do not respect their offering. I have not taken one donkey from them, nor have I hurt one of them. God, you know where this is going. Let me tell you, I haven't taken nothing. I don't know what their issue is with me. I do not know what their issue with me is at all. This is the demonic working amongst the people. This is like the spirit of Jezebel that gets into. This is the leaven, and the leaven comes in, and now you see that leaven beginning to go through the whole congregation. Moses was very angry, said to them, do not respect their offering. I have not taken one donkey from them, or I've hurt them. And Moses said to Korah, tomorrow you and all your company be present before the Lord, you and they as well as Aaron. Moses said, okay, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn this meeting, but I want to tell you, we're going to take it up tomorrow. Do I get a second? Yes, second. All the ayes have it, the nays, okay. Let's go tomorrow. We'll resume. I have an agenda for tomorrow. And on the agenda, number 1 is bring your censer with fire and incense. And then we'll see what God does. Let each take his censer and put incense in it. Each of you bring his censer before Yahweh, 250 censers, both you and Aaron, each with his censer. So I guess if my math is right, there was 252 censers, okay? But there could have only be 248 of the other guys and complete the 250, but I don't know. So every man took his censer, okay, and put fire in it. Here it is the next morning. They all come with their censers. Oh, I bet you they shined them up real nice and pretty, put brasso on it, and cleaned it up real good. Put fire in it, laid incense on it, and stood at the door of the tabernacle of meeting with Moses and Aaron. So everybody comes around the tabernacle. Everybody. And the 250 are there, and you could imagine that all the people, all the congregation are all huddled around. And there's going to be the thrilla in Manila. There's going to be the rumble in the jungle. Every man took a censer, put fire in it, laid incense on it, stood at the door of the tabernacle of meeting with Moses and Aaron. And Korah gathered all the congregation against them at the door of the tabernacle of meeting. So here comes Korah, and all the people are with him. Moses and Aaron versus all the people. Dude, we know how this is going to end. Or do we? Korah gathered the congregation against him at the door of the tabernacle of meeting. Then the glory of the Lord appeared to all the congregation. Oh, God's showing up. God's showing up. Remember what we tell you occasionally, that you and God make a majority. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what popular opinion is. It doesn't matter what even the democratic process or a corruption of the democratic progress, that one is. What is God's will? And if you're on God's side, you're the majority immediately. Korah gathered all the congregation against him at the door of the tabernacle of meeting. Then the glory of Yahweh appeared to all the congregation, and the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, separate yourselves from among this congregation, that I may consume them in a moment. Is this not the third or the fourth time that God says, get out of the way, I'm going to take care of business? The Lord tells Moses, separate yourselves. Get away, get away, get away. Step back, take another step. Separate yourselves from this congregation, that I may consume them. Then they fell on their faces and says, O God, the God of the spirits of all flesh, shall one man sin and you be angry with all the congregation? I think the congregation were looking for some blood right about now, but Moses is interceding with his brother Aaron for the congregation. And he says, man, it's that one lump of yeast that caused all this problem. Shall one man sin and you be angry with the congregation? The power of leaven, the power of sin, and how it creates mob mentality, and that's what we have. We got the mob now. But Moses and Aaron intercedes for the mob. So Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, speak to the congregation, saying, get away from the tents of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. God says, okay. You better tell them, though. Go tell each and every one of them to get away from the tents of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. Dathan and Abiram were the two who did not want to come to the meeting. So Moses rose and went to Dathan and to Abiram, and the elders of Israel followed him. And he spoke to the congregation, saying, depart now from the tents of these wicked men. Get away. Separate yourself away. Get away from these men. Touch nothing of theirs, lest you be consumed in all their sins. We're going to take care of the leaven right now. We're going to take care. It's time to take care of the leaven. If you let the leaven, just like Jesus told a church in the book of Revelation, you tolerate. You keep tolerating this stuff. You should have taken care of it a long time ago. Balaam's, Jezebel's, Nicolaitans. Why do you guys keep on allowing this stuff? It's affecting the whole crowd. So they got away. So the people began to separate them. Well, I don't know. What are we going to? Let's just get away. Let's just make sure. Just back off. Everybody back up. So they got away from around the tents of Kohath, Dathan, and Abiram. And Dathan and Abiram came out and stood at the door of their tents with their wives, their sons, and their little children. Could you imagine these guys coming out with their arms crossed and looking at Moses and giving him a mad dog, flashing gang signs to him and saying, we're who do you think you are anyway? Who do you think you are? Dathan and Abiram came out, stood at the door of their tents with their wives, their sons, and their little children. They're all puffed up with the leaven. See, that's what leaven does, is puffs up. And Moses said, by this you shall know that the Lord has sent me to do all these works, for I have not done them of my own will. If these men die naturally like all men, or if they are visited by the common fate of all men, then the Lord has not sent me. But if the Lord creates a new thing and the earth opens up its mouth and swallows them up with all that belongs to them, they will go down alive into the pit. Then you will understand that these men have rejected Yahweh. See, notice how Moses doesn't say that they've rejected me. He says, you have rejected Yahweh. If they die naturally, if they die by natural causes, heart attack, a cancer, but if the ground opens up and swallows them, then you're going to know that God has judged this situation. Now it came to pass, as he finished speaking to all these words, that we're out of time. I can't believe we're out of time. I can't believe that in the middle of this exciting story in the wilderness that we're going to have to cut it off and we're going to have to say, we'll take it up tomorrow. But that's the way the cookie crumbles, my brothers and sisters. Sorry for my bad timing. We will be here tomorrow, Lord willing, at 10 minutes after the hour of 6 o'clock in Numbers chapter 16, and we will continue to find out. You're going to have to wait till tomorrow to find out what's going to happen.
Change my heart, oh God, make it ever true. Change my heart, oh God, may I be like you.